I was having y'all, it's your boy Rico from StreetScores, and we have a big time injury update coming today as of Wednesday, November 20th. A big time one. I'm gonna show you the injury report, of course, who didn't practice and all of that type of stuff. But most importantly, we have Marshon Lattimore running at practice today. We also have a disruptive rookie defensive end coming back practicing finally for the first time since the Ravens game. Also, we have some Jayden Daniels practice clips, and also Jayden Daniels, why you lying straight to our face like that, man? We're going to dive into what he said, what he lied about, and I have a bunch of updates for the offensive line, our kicker situation, all kinds of things. We even got to laugh at Daniel Jones as well. But before we dive into all of that, make sure you stiff arm that like button, stiff arm the subscription button, and stiff arm the bell next to that subscription button so you get a notification each and every time I release an informative and opinionated video just like this one. Make sure you stay tuned to all of the content. I'm going to keep y'all updated on every single injury we have going on. I'm working on my preview video for this upcoming Cowboys game and why we should end up beating them by easily double-digit points. I'm gonna break down all of the different matchups. I have advanced stats, all of that type of stuff, and of course I will be live streaming that game as well. Y'all already know that, live streaming all 4 quarters, play-by-play analysis and everything, so make sure I stay tuned for that. Without further ado, let's go ahead and dive into this video, man. Let's get it. Adam. Before we get into anything, shouts out to my dog Drums just by rail for the big time CashApp donation, just for the strength of it, just off the strength. While I wasn't even live streaming, just earlier this morning, just wanted to donate a big donation to the CashApp. I mean, that's big love, and I really appreciate the donation and the message that you put with it as well. So shouts out to you. I feel like the least I can do when anybody donates while I'm not live streaming is to thank you in the immediate very next video. And again, I really appreciate that. And before we get to Marshon Lattimore, because that's how we're going to start this video, I also want to let y'all know that y'all asked for it and y'all got it. Go subscribe to the Commanders Kings YouTube channel. You have the 4 Commanders Kings, Louis T, Ed Oliver, Rio Robinson, and me. We just went crazy with our hour-long debut video, and we will be live streaming every Tuesday night. So go make sure you subscribe, follow all the other 3 guys if you haven't already for some crazy reason. Subscribe to them, follow them on Twitter and everything. We'll be putting out videos and shorts throughout the week as well, but do not miss out on these live streams every Tuesday, and definitely go check out the one we just did last night. Now let's go ahead and get to the video. All right, so let's start with Marshon Lattimore, and let's go ahead and get it out the way. Marshon Lattimore did not practice with the team today, but that does not mean that he didn't do anything at all in practice today. He was even running at a certain point. And I'm not necessarily saying that that type of running looks like ready to lock down CeeDee Lamb level of running, but he was running at practice today, and I feel like that's a significant jump towards his progression to getting back healthy and being available for the Washington Commanders for the first time since we traded for him to finally make his debut. But even before practice, before Marshon Lattimore even had the chance to run right there, as you saw in that clip, Dan Quinn spoke to the media. He said that Marshon Lattimore will work on the side in practice today. Quote, "We'll see what tomorrow looks like if we're able to work him into some of the practices," unquote. He also said that Lattimore did some speed work over the weekend. Quinn said that he'll have a better idea on Lattimore tomorrow afternoon going into this Friday. But again, he was even running at a certain point, and when he wasn't running, he was hanging with and talking to Joe Wood Jr., our defensive coordinator, during the special teams parts of practice. So anytime Joe Wood Jr. didn't necessarily have to coach himself and like actually go out there and do what he's supposed to do during the practices, his extra time, any of his spare time was spent with Marshon Lattimore. And now, granted, even if Marshon Lattimore is able to practice on Friday, like full-blown participant, I'm not sure if it's necessarily worth it to risk it and bring him back to play versus the Cowboys. I'm definitely in the mode now at this point. We were 7-2 without him. I know we're 7-4 now, but I feel like you can beat the Cowboys without Dak Prescott and that bad defense without Marshon Lattimore. I really do. I also feel like you can beat the Titans without Marshon Lattimore. And then we have the bye week after that. So at this point, in my personal opinion, we might as well wait to play him until after that bye week going into that Saints game so he can get some nice, sweet revenge against his former team. Shouts out to Surge the Shooter because I completely agree. He said Lattimore working on the field, the side field, is a step. Hoped for the Steelers-Eagles debut, but as you work towards Cowboys and Titans, it's at this point, take your time and get right. I completely agree. The only time I was even slightly willing to like force it, even if he's not 100%, let's see if we can try to get him onto the field, were against better opponents like the Steelers, who we only lost to by 1 point, the Eagles, who we had a 10-6 lead on in the early fourth quarter. Against those tough opponents, you know, arguably Super Bowl contenders, that was when I was like, okay, maybe it may be worth to sort of risk Marshon Lattimore back. But against the Cowboys and Titans, no. You might as well just go ahead and hold them out until the bye week at this point, in my personal opinion. But shouts out to Pro Football Focus for showing this. When they pulled up the fewest yards allowed in coverage this season, as you can see, Patrick Surtain is second, but you see our boy Marshon Lattimore is first with only 83 yards allowed, with Patrick Surtain allowing 142. And mind you, this is among cornerbacks, and you have to have at least a minimum of 200 coverage snaps this season. So this is why we are so excited about potentially getting them back as soon as possible. That stat right there. But we also have to remember that Lattimore has only played in 7 of 11 games this season. So it's way easier to not allow any yards when you're not even on the field to possibly allow them. You know, to be completely honest with you, but that's still very impressive, even within 7 games nonetheless. But looking at him, I mean, like, he's like the best corner in the NFL this season based on the fact that he's allowed the least yards. Is pretty crazy. Like, that's sort of a fallacy right there. But they did make sure that every corner that was competing in this list with this stat had to have played at least 200 snaps. So I still feel like that's very impressive, but at the same time, you know, at the end of the day, he's missed a few games. He's missed 4 games, 3 with us, 1 for the Saints. And it's nice. It's a great stat to look at. We'll see what it looks like when he finally plays for us. I feel like our defense overall is better than the Saints, especially with how we're trending. So I feel like if he was that good for the Saints in 7 games, I feel like he'll be even better for us moving forward. So I'm really excited about this playoff push that we're about to go on. I firmly believe in the fact that we're at least going to the playoffs, but also I'm pretty confident that we'll win a playoff game or 2. You'll see. Just stay tuned, man. But now, moving on to the next part of this video, we finally got a disruptive rookie back practicing. And what I mean by that is the Washington Commanders have officially announced that we have opened the 21-day practice window for defensive end Javonte Jean-Baptiste, who has been on the injured reserve since he got hurt against the Ravens. Of course, when you open a 21-day practice window, that doesn't mean that he's taking up a 53-man roster spot, but for him to be able to play in a game, he would have to. You would have to move. Right now, he's still currently on IR, but he has 21 days while on IR to practice. After those 21 days, if we do not move him to that 53-man roster to where he's able to play, then he's forced to be on IR for the rest of the season. So just know, within 21 days at a certain point, Javonte Jean-Baptiste will be on the active roster and will be playing in games. But remember, we do have a bye week in 3 weeks, so keep that in mind as well. I'm assuming that he'll probably make his debut against the Saints, along with, well, his return, not his debut. Marshon Lattimore will be making his debut against the Saints, I'm assuming, and I'm also assuming Javonte Jean-Baptiste will be making his return against the Saints after the bye week. There's no reason to necessarily force him in before the bye week. We do not need to be like super fully loaded to be able to beat the Titans or the Cowboys. I firmly believe that. But again, this does not necessarily mean that Javonte Jean-Baptiste will play against the Cowboys this weekend. Actually, I doubt it. Similar to Marshon Lattimore, again, we might as well just wait to throw him out there into actual NFL game action until after the bye week, honestly, because that extra week of recovery could be huge for both of them, honestly. And we do not need Lattimore nor Javonte Jean-Baptiste to beat the Cowboys or Titans, but that doesn't necessarily mean that I'm not excited about Javonte's return. I mean, that boy was really starting to figure it out before he got hurt in that Ravens game. We just haven't seen him since. I mean, he had a sack week 3 against the Cincinnati Bengals, but he was getting better and better and more disruptive and impactful by the game. Like, even after that 1 sack that he had so far in his career, you could argue that even after that, he was playing better. He just wasn't able to actually record an official sack. So to me, it looked like he was getting better and developing with every game that passed, just based off of what I saw on tape. And granted, he's a 7th round rookie, so of course he's not going to come right out the gate like a heat-seeking missile immediately week 1, like he was like a 1st round pick with those level of expectations. But his consistent growth and upward trajectory shows me, one, elite scouting from this front office to find a 7th round pick, to find a guy that good as a 7th round pick. Everybody else didn't know, but I guess we knew. Number 2, development from our coaching staff, but also number 3, the work ethic from the rookie himself. I'm very excited about what he can become once he's back fully healthy and on that field, again, getting better every week like he had before he got hurt. But also, just to take it back a little bit, I mean, look at his relative athletic score. I mean, you could say he's pretty small. I mean, at the very least, underweight when it comes to being a defensive end, but that didn't necessarily show up in games. I mean, that was a concern in the offseason, but the first 7 weeks that he played, I wasn't concerned about him being underweight. If anything, he was actually better at run defense and setting the edge than actually rushing the passer, which is pretty interesting compared to what he did in college. But again, if you're looking at the relative athletic score, a 9.13, very explosive, very fast for a guy his size. I think this is a guy that's going to grow into something serious. I mean, he's a freak athlete. You could definitely put that label on him. And even when you're looking at Pro Football Focus from what he did this season, and I agree, I don't agree with Pro Football Focus very often, but I agree with this one. He's been getting better and better as the season has gone on, because as you can see on the screen, he had a 58.6 overall grade week 1, and then he got slightly better according to Pro Focus and had a 62.3 grade week 2, and then it went back down into the 50s weeks 3 and 4, even though his only sack was against the Bengals in week 3. And then as he kept playing more and more and started to get more snaps, he also started to play more snaps. As you can see, like week 5 he played 30, week 6 he played 28. That's more than any other game before those games, and that's at the same time the games that he had his highest grades overall of a 68.1 and a 69.9, nearly a 70. And so this is a guy that's literally getting better and better every game. I'm also telling you that the more he plays, the better he gets as well. And that's going to be scary, projecting him into what he may become by the time we get to the playoffs or something. Like, other NFL teams are going to feel bamboozled when they face us in the playoffs. They're going to be wondering hey, when did this guy get on their team? Where did he just come from? So again, this is a very optimistic view from me personally, and I could very well be getting ahead of myself right now, but my main point is keep an eye out for this 7th round rookie edge rusher. He may surprise you in opposing teams very soon. And at the very least, I mean, at worst case scenario, more depth for this defensive line can only help us. Being deeper at the edge rusher position can only help our defense even more than what it already is. So I'm very excited to get him back no matter what happens. And then moving on to Jayden Daniels. Dan Quinn addressed the media before practice, and he started off immediately with this press conference saying and stressing again how excited he is that they'll get back to a regular practice schedule this week. That short week leading up to that Eagles game really did us dirty. It did us dirty more than it did the Eagles dirty, and you could tell. And he has a great point, because JP Finley worded it very well. He pointed out the fact that Dan Quinn said that Jayden Daniels' lack of practice reps have been a factor for this Commanders offense and why they've been so inefficient the past couple of weeks. Also, of course, going against 2 top 3 defenses in the NFL don't help either, but also the lack of practices, because Dan Quinn's got a point. Jayden injured his ribs on October 20th. Wasn't listed as a full practice participant until November 1st. Then you assume 3 full practices before the Steelers game, which was November 10th, and then basically no practice before the Eagles. So in a month since the rib injury, Jayden has only had 4 full practices when you actually really think about it. That is actually pretty crazy. I think that's a good excuse. I know it's still an excuse nonetheless, but that's a pretty good excuse. And then Jayden Daniels, addressing the media after practice, said just like Dan Quinn, he stressed the importance of getting these practice reps finally. Said that the offense wasn't clicking on all cylinders, and that goes back to the lack of practices that we've had, especially to Jayden Daniels specifically. He also said, quote, "I'm with Dan Quinn. Those practice reps are very valuable," unquote. He even said that the Washington Commanders offense wasn't clicking on all cylinders, and that getting a full week of practice should help getting everything back in order. So I love the fact that both our head coach and quarterback are on the same page when it comes to their reasoning and mentality moving forward as to why we were so bad offensively the past couple of weeks and why we'll be better the next couple of weeks. Whether I agree with it or not does not necessarily matter. Them being on the same page is the most important part. They're sending the same message, and that is what actually matters. The fact that they are unified in their thinking and their message to the media, everything, I completely love that. Daniels also said that it was great to get away for a little bit over the weekend, and said that he's glad to get back to work though, but it was nice to have at least a mental break. He said, quote, "I'm good as far as health goes," and he also added that the mini bye was a good moment to refresh both physically and mentally. And I feel like that is pretty important. I definitely see the Cowboys game also as a big bounce back opportunity for us, both win-wise and mentally as well. And also just for Jayden Daniels and this entire offense and everybody, I feel like this is the perfect game to come back to after having to face the Steelers and the Eagles. But with how bad the Cowboys are on defense, we don't truly know if the success that we'll have against the Cowboys will be more so because of the few days off that we finally had and the ability to actually have full practices and properly game plan and prepare for an opponent, or if the Cowboys defense is just that terrible. But honestly, at the end of the day, I honestly don't care as long as we whoop them Cowboys and embarrass them this Sunday. I don't care what the reasoning is, as long as we beat them by 30 plus points. But Deron Payne even spoke after practice and said that he's experienced plenty of Washington versus Dallas games, and he understands what this rivalry means to the fan base. He said, quote, "Division game for one, you know it's going to be a hard-fought game, and it always means more just because it's Dallas," unquote. That's speaking from somebody that's had to face them twice a year for the past few years of his NFL career, and this just means more. Again, so to my point, we may not necessarily walk away from this Cowboys game having a great answer as to the offense is actually back, or is the defense that they went against just actually that bad, and we still don't know. Honestly, to me, it kind of matters, but at the end of the day, it's just because it's the Cowboys, just because it's literally just the Cowboys, I feel like all that really matters is that we whooped them by 30 points. Even, remember, we have former Cowboys players on this team. Sunday will be a big game for former Cowboys defensive end Dorrance Armstrong. Remember, he played 6 seasons with the Cowboys, and when asked about what happened to the Cowboys this season, he had a big smile on his face and said, quote, "It's not good. I'll just say that," unquote. So he's loving how bad the Cowboys look this season. Absolutely loving it. And I'm pretty sure he can't wait is just as much as anybody else to go out there and put a whipping on them Cowboys this Sunday, and I hope they do. But going back to Jayden Daniels real quick, in his press conference after practice, he also talked about not running as much lately. He said, quote, "I think you self-scout and look at things differently and look at different things. Obviously, teams will start to play you differently, containing me and containing the run game," unquote. So he's basically saying that the reason he's not running, he's not blaming it on the rib injury, even though I feel like the rib injury has a lot to do with it. But he's mostly blaming it on the fact that defenses now have more film on him, more tape on him, on his tendencies, what he likes to do, what he doesn't like to do, and they're doing a better job forcing him to do things he doesn't like and taking away the things that he likes to do. But also, Jayden Daniels, you ain't gotta lie, Craig. He talked about the wraps being applied to his body during the game and everything like that. He said, quote, "It's to stay warm. It's getting later in the year. You don't want body parts getting cold," unquote. And boy, man, don't lie to our faces like that. Like, come on, man. Like, your ribs ain't the only thing cold, man. Like, cause by that logic, your whole body would be wrapped up. You would look like Buddy that was scamming on SpongeBob with the chocolates and everything like that. And I know you're a Southern Cali guy. I know you played in Arizona. I know you played in Louisiana. So you've never probably experienced cold weather before in your life. Probably never have seen snow in person. But rib wrap to survive the winter, dog, like, that's not it, man. Come on, dog. You gotta know we ain't gonna fall for that one. Now, moving on to the offensive line, and this is a very optimistic report right here. Dan Quinn said that the entire offensive line will be full participants in practice this week and that the group needed the extra couple of days off. When he updated the offensive line's health, he said, quote, "All of the offensive line are full participants. It's pool party time," unquote. Finally, man, health is huge for this offensive line, and everything starts with the offensive line. Jayden Daniels clearly looked uncomfortable against both the Eagles and the Steelers, but especially the Eagles. And I'm not blaming health on why Brandon Coleman was getting beat so often against the Eagles just alone. But the healthier our offensive line is, the better our offensive line will play and be. Plain and simple. And the fact that the Dan Quinn even went out of his way to point out the fact that this is the first time this starting offensive line has been everybody full participants in practice leading up to a game should tell you everything you need to know about how important it is. I mean, the fact that Dan Quinn even pointed it out just in itself should tell you what you need to know. And when I think about it, this is probably the first week of practice that this entire offensive line all season has been fully healthy. At least NFL-wise fully healthy. I mean, I believe it is, because when you think back Like, even to the beginning of the season, Brandon Coleman was banged up to start the season. And then we've had guys hurt throughout the season, missing games throughout the season and everything like that. And so after practice, even Brian Robinson said that he was starting to feel better. So we're starting to get like healthy in multiple layers. Jayden Daniels' rib injury is hopefully getting better. Offensive line finally fully healthy for the first time since the season even started. And even Brian Robinson said after practice, when talking about his hamstring, he said, quote, "I've been moving better every day. I feel a lot better now doing my natural movements. I'm getting there," unquote. So basically, it sounds like he's not 100%, but he definitely feels better going into this Cowboys game than he did going into that Eagles game. And that's going to be a huge plus for our offense as well. So right now, we are getting healthier at the right time. This last stretch to make the playoffs, and hopefully the running games that we're going to go on in the playoffs. And like I say, man, it's better to be healthy late in the season than early in the season if I had to choose between the two, man. And so we're getting healthy at the right time. That's a great thing. Also, moving forward, Dan Quinn said the kicker Austin Cyber, aka like I called him, Austin Cyborg, will get some practice time today and tomorrow, and they'll have a better assessment of where he's at with his hip injury tomorrow as they get into the kickoff drills and things like that. But remember, our backup kicker Zane Gonzalez has stepped in and literally been perfect the past 2 games that he's played. So we are in good hands either way, but don't get it confused. Austin Cyborg is our franchise kicker when healthy, but it's nice to have 2 really good kickers. Now, if you look on the screen at the injury report from Wednesday, today's practice, November 20th, Nick Bellore, our Pro Bowl special teamer, is still out, but Derek Forrest steps in his place for special teams and has been playing well. Zach Ertz always has rest on Wednesday. I don't think he's gone a week this season where he participated in practice on Wednesday, and he's always out because of rest. Marshon Lattimore technically was considered a did not participate, even though he was running in practice today, but he didn't necessarily practice with the team. And then limited Cleveland Farrell per usual. Noah Benogany with a thumb injury. Interesting. He's limited as well. Austin Cyborg, of course, already gave you his update. And then Ben Sinnott is dealing with an illness, but that's not something I believe we should have to worry about leading up to this game on Sunday. And then full participants, Dorrance Armstrong, thank goodness. Tackle Brandon Coleman, thank goodness. Javonte Jean-Baptiste, who just opened his practice window. Again, like I already said earlier, I don't expect him to play against the Cowboys. And at that point, you might as well wait until after the bye week to bring him back. But if he's good to go, I guess you just go ahead and let him practice. And then Jordan McGee, the linebacker, still dealing with the elbow injury. He is a full participant as well. I can't wait for his role in the defense to fully expand. And then going back to Noah Benogany real quick, he was wearing a non-contact shirt at practice today, so he was limited, but he was still out there. But he's dealing with a thumb injury right now. We'll monitor that situation leading up to the Cowboys game. And then also moving on, Dan Quinn spoke after practice about Jeremy Chinn specifically and said, quote, "One of the things that I've been most impressed by him is his ability to tackle. That and his ability to play man-on-man with tight ends. He's been excellent, an excellent addition for this team," unquote. And if you remember, he tackled Dallas Goedert back 8 yards after when they first made contact. Like Dallas Goedert went and caught a pass on a short throw from Jalen Hurts against the Eagles, and after they made contact, after Jeremy Chinn started tackling Dallas Goedert, he pushed them 8 yards back, and he was over him all over that entire game, other than one time that he was caught looking in the backfield at Jalen Hurts, I guess just watching to make sure he wouldn't scramble or run, and that was one time Dallas Goedert got the best of Jeremy Chinn. Outside of that, I feel like Jeremy Chinn won that matchup, and he's been great this season, especially like the last 4 or 5 games. You could argue he's been our defensive MVP between him and Dante Fowler, but Dante Fowler didn't have a sack against the Eagles. Jeremy Chinn still had a great game against the Eagles like he's been having the last few weeks. So there's an argument for Dante Fowler. There's an argument for Jeremy Chinn. I mean, you could even throw Frankie Louvu in there as well, because you could argue that he's easily been having a Pro Bowl season as well. But going back to Jeremy Chinn, I agree with my dog George Carmi right here when he said Jeremy Chinn's been on a heater, playing lights out recently. It's been reported that he needed more time to assimilate and truly understand the playbook and his role with this team than probably other guys on the defense. And I don't think that it's a coincidence that we are seeing an uptick in his play. I completely agree. Jeremy Chinn, it probably just took him a little bit more time than others out of their starting defense, specifically the secondary, to fully understand like what the defense is asking of him, where he needs to be, what he needs to do, when he needs to do it, and all of that type of stuff, strategic, schematic things like that. But now that it's finally clicked, he's arguably been the best player on this entire team, man, defensively especially. So I'm saying, and I'm screaming, re-sign him for show. He's on a 1-year prove-it deal contract right now. I'm saying long-term contract in everything. Also, before we get up out of here, shouts out to Nikki Javala for tweeting this photo right here where somebody planted this sign at the entrance of the Commanders practice facility. And I love the fact that the fan base is showing that we still believe, and I think it's cool that this community is like, even after 2 losses in a row, we lost twice in 4 days, this fan base is still bought in fully. And I didn't think about it until I saw this tweet, but shouts out to Grant Cohn. When he tweeted, it seems like the 49ers fell apart and the Commanders became a serious team when Adam Peters went to Washington. Is it literally just that and that alone? Adam Peters leaving the 49ers, joining the Commanders. 49ers get worse. The Commanders get way better. Well, I know for a fact Adam Peters coming here made us way better. But hey, man, there may be an argument for the fact that the 49ers also got worse because Adam Peters leaving. And then also, before we get up out of here, last thing. Did y'all see Daniel Jones? The fact that not only has he been benched, that was announced like a couple of days ago, but now as of today, November 20th, it's being reported that he was the 4th quarterback in individual drills in the Giants practice. They've officially benched him. They're ready to move on. I don't know if they're going to cut. I'm assuming they're going to cut him because I don't know who would trade for Daniel Jones with the contract that he has at this point. They're definitely going, we're taking a quarterback in the first round mode right now, even though it would have been better to do that last year than this upcoming year quarterback wise, but it is what it is. Ha Giants, you picked the worst season to go ahead and try to tank for a quarterback, but it is what it is. But either way, man, Daniel Jones is the 4th quarterback in practice right now. Shouts out to Josh Taylor. Make sure you subscribe to his YouTube channel and follow him on Twitter as well, because I completely agree, but it's hilarious. He said Daniel Jones has now been demoted to non-existent. And I thought that was hilarious, man. That guy is the 4th quarterback on their depth chart. That is insane, man. Hey, appreciate those 2 wins this season, though, man. But yeah, man, that's the end of this video. Please get in the comment section. Let me know if you feel about everything discussed in this video. Please still farm that like button, still farm the subscription button, still farm the bell next to that subscription button so you get notification each and every time I release an informative and opinionated video just like this one. If you made it this far in the video, man, you the GOAT. I salute you. Please leave a like button on this video before you go. And of course, let me know in the comment section how you feel about Marshon Lattimore running at practice, but still not technically participating in team drills. Let me know how you feel about our disruptive rookie defensive end and the Javonte Jean-Baptiste coming back and practicing. Are you as excited about his potential as I am? Also, let me know how you feel about Jayden Daniels, how he looked in his practice clips today, how he looked, what he said about the injury, like how he's blaming it more so on the inability to practice than anything else. Let me know how you feel about him, to me, lying about the whole rib wrap situation and how it's about the cold and not the fact that he's hurt. Let me know if you believe that, what I feel like is a lie. Let me know how you feel about our kicker situation, our offensive line situation, Brian Robinson, everybody getting healthier by the day. Let me know how you feel about all of that. And also, of course, let me know how you feel about Daniel Jones being the 4th quarterback right there for the New York Giants right now. Let me know how you feel about all of that and more. I'm gonna try my best to read and reply to as many comments as possible. I really appreciate y'all. I'm gonna catch y'all later. I'm out.